Hello and welcome to the Best and Worst Pictures podcast. I'm your host, Jake, and with me, as always, my good co host, Ian.
That is me.
And joining us, as per usual, is my other, also good co host, Mud. How you doing?
Was poppin'.
What is this show, you might ask? Well, every week, the three of us idiots sit down and review a Best Picture winner over the past 100 or so years and determine if it's one of the best or worst pictures as compared to the others. As the years go on, we'll also be doing more familiar movies that maybe have actors we actually know in them instead of 100 years ago.
What, you don't know Betsy?
Exactly. But
Her name's Bessie.
my point with that is that we might even know other nominees, and we can compare if it was actually the best or worst nominee that year or winner. This week, we're discussing the second best picture ever, The Broadway Melody. And to start us off, Mud, as per usual, has collected some fun facts about the film, which Ian and I have not heard ahead of time. Mud,
I am going to start with my one fun fact.
That's not
before
right.
Mud starts.
how dare you?
Well,
I
that was rude.
only had one fun fact about this movie that I knew, and it was that, like last week, parts of this movie were considered lost. There was one scene in particular, which was one of the only scenes in the film, if not the only scene, I believe, that was shot in Technicolor.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of the first films to use Technicolor, I believe.
It was.
And the fucking part got lost.
It is lost.
So now it's all in black and white.
There is a colored version of this film, and certain parts of it are exclusive to the colored version. So the version we have is in black and white.
Yep.
So to kick us off with some fun facts, so the movie's called The Broadway Melody. It was released. It had 3 separate release dates according to Wikipedia. Fun
That's
fact.
weird.
February 1st at the Chinese Theater in California. February 8th in New York City, and then for general audiences in the United States, June 12th.
What the fuck?
Yes, several months later.
February, but a week later, June.
So I think the reason why, actually, maybe because of the production, because this was not only one of the first sound films ever, it was also one of the first musicals ever. It was a lot of what they referred to as trial and error filmmaking, where they would literally film a scene and then watch and listen back to decide if the audio was good, and if it wasn't, they would redo the set to get better audio. So they were redoing whole scenes.
Whole sets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because, they'd never
Cadence
filmed
and-
They'd
wow.
never filmed with audio before. It was well received at the time and spawned 3 sequels, all of which were simply named The Broadway Melody and then the year it was released. So we have The Broadway Melody 1936, Broadway Melody 1938, The Broadway Melody 1940.
Wow, how fast did that fucking burn out?
Oh, it gets better. In 1940, they also released a remake called Two Girls on Broadway. Yeah, I know.
All right, so let me get this straight. 1927,
1929.
29, sorry. 36, 38, 40.
And then a
remake of the 29 movie.
in 40. So they had a sequel and a remake in the same year.
Jesus.
It was released by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, aka MGM Studios. It beat out Alibi, The Hollywood Review, 1929, In Old Arizona, and The Patriot to win Best Picture. Bessie Love, one of the actresses in the film, who we'll get to, was nominated for Best Actress, but lost to, funnily enough, from last week, Mary Pickford. I don't know if you guys remember her. I mentioned her a fair bit. She wasn't in Wings, but I mentioned her a fair bit in the fun facts section.
Yep.
So I just found it funny that she's back again. Harry Beaumont, the director, was nominated for Best Director. He lost to Frank Lloyd. Speaking of critical reception, though, the film currently has a 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb,
That's pretty low.
a 33% critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes,
Oh, that's very low.
and a 20% for the audience.
Oh my god, is this movie bad?
It was well received at the time.
Ruthless.
So, moving on, as I mentioned, the film was directed by Harry Beaumont, and I wrote down a fun fact, which are are no fun facts about him.
Okay. That sounds like a pretty fun fact to me.
I think he was from Kansas. I didn't really check. The male lead is named Charles King, who, fun fact, was largely actually a vaudevillian actor. He doesn't have many, if any, movie credits. The only other thing that I could find of interest was he was in the Hollywood Review, 1929.
The other Best Picture nominee this year.
Yes, exactly.
Well, one of them.
But speaking of the Best Picture nominees, our lead actress, Bessie Love, the one who was nominated for an Academy Award, was also in the Hollywood Review. She has also been in a film we've watched for this channel. Would you like to wager a guess?
Wait, which person?
Bessie Love.
I'm going to go and say Wings.
I'm going
Okay.
to go and say Magnificent Seven.
Okay. On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, who's she?
She plays the Baccarat player.
Huh.
Background character.
Interesting.
Oh, I remember when he played Baccarat. Okay.
Yeah.
I
She's in that
don't.
scene. And then our last lead is Anita Page. She's also known for not much. But here's a fun fact I found. She retired in 1936 and then unretired in 1996.
What the fuck?
Her last film was released posthumously in 2016.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Wasn't Wings 27?
Yeah.
This is 29?
Yes.
Did they skip one?
No. The first Academy Awards was for 27 and 28 films.
Okay.
Also, Anita Page was considered, and I'm quoting, the girl with the most beautiful face in Hollywood in the 1920s. So that about runs the gambit on everything I had for this film. Unlike Wings, there weren't any specificities with the production fun facts.
Yeah, because that one was lost and had to be recreated and all this nonsense.
Actually, the long and short, the Wikipedia page for this film, which is where I get all my sources because I'm a cool kid in high school who's writing his essay incorrectly, pretty light on details for this film overall.
I mean, it's fucking 90 years old.
You're right. No, you're absolutely right. I do respect.
Right, but so was like
Wings.
Frankenstein, you know.
But so is Wings.
So is
And
Wings.
I could find a lot of
to
information
be
about the
fair-
production of Wings.
To be fair, things being lost, it's tough, especially with information around a lot of these early movies.
You're not wrong.
So I completely understand.
But yeah. So this film's about an hour and 40 minutes long.
Yep.
So
Almost
we
exactly.
will check in with you guys once we're done.
Yeah, all that out of the way. Let's watch the movie.
So I do want to say, overall, I didn't like it. It's actually kind of bad.
Okay.
I wanted to be like, throw them off. It's not interesting. So I feel like the entire movie is supposed to be the relationship between Queenie and Hank,
Mhm.
and how Eddie impacts their relationship, and how the Broadway spectrum and the fame also starts tearing apart their relationship.
Yep.
That I feel like was hammered home pretty well. That's the theme that I thought was handled the best.
Mhm.
Is how the fame and like the scantily clad Hollywood life and like only being loved for your beauty.
Yeah, and I definitely picked up on that
Yeah.
too.
I thought that theme was very, very well done. That's why they're like, Jock's not good for you. Jock only cares about breastises. Like,
He's right, but he's also really horny for Queenie.
yes. And when Hank was trying to tell her that, I felt better about it. But when he's trying to say it, it's because he wants coochie.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, so if we can get into it too. Yeah, Eddie is at the start of the
He's
film.
a terrible character.
He's terrible. He's at the start of the film. He dates Hank. He's already dating Hank. That's already established.
They're like engaged.
They're like
Yeah, they're
engaged to be
engaged.
married soon. And then he sees Queenie is just so beset by her beauty that he's like, "Oh my god, you got to be in freaking Broadway. You're just
Oh my
so
god, I
pretty."
need to marry you even though you look exactly the same as I.
They look identical. It's the quality of the camera and the rip we have. It's not very
Yeah.
high. But yeah, so he's besmitten with his fucking fiance's sister,
Fiance's sister.
which is really weird
Oh yeah.
because you can do one of two things. You can either stay with the fiance and actually be a man about it, or break up with the fiance and be like, "Look, I'm more interested in her."
I want to try dating your sister
I
and
wanna-
just
yeah.
absolutely destroy that whole dynamic.
Right.
Yeah,
he-
because her and her sister have such a good relationship.
Yeah, so he did neither. He stayed dating Hank and tried to like get into her pants, the sister of Hank.
Queenie's pants.
Queenie's
Yeah.
pants. Yep. Yeah, that was dear God.
And at the very end, the worst part is he comes out on top.
Yep.
Because he marries Queenie and stays friends with Hank, and Hank is happy for
Yeah,
them.
it's a terrible message.
Yeah, what the fuck's up with that?
Well, yeah, I think this is absolutely. I know, product of its time is a bit of hand wavy shit, but definitely product of its time.
Agree.
Because like there is some good stuff in here, like the dynamic between Queenie and Hank. I actually really like the scene where Hank breaks up with Eddie.
Yep.
Because I thought
You
at
know
first
she's
she
lying.
doesn't care. And when I found out she did, I'm like, all right, that's a better scene. That's a better scene. If she didn't care, I'd be more mad.
What's even worse is it's again her, just to jump right into it, sacrificing her own happiness in her life for the sake of Queenie, because she knows that either way, Queenie's going to end up with somebody,
Yeah.
and it's better for it to be Eddie than Jock.
Yes.
Now, overall, that's a poor message of, oh, Queenie has to end up with a man, you know. But I really like that scene. I think it's what saves this from being just a downright terrible film.
Yeah, no, some of the messaging and theme really
like,
saved this movie.
They don't dance around this stuff, like, you know, like the first night that Queenie performs,
They're like, this busty little... Yeah.
yeah, and Hank's like, you shouldn't be going out there and just showing off your legs, like, you should-
the legs.
well, that's
Yeah.
what she said.
Yep.
You know, it's good. It's interesting because these are still themes we see in films today, and
Because
the best thing
especially-
a film can be is relevant.
Especially with the hypersexualization in marketing, advertisement, and media. That theme is even amplified more now. It's still relevant.
I would say it's more relevant than before.
Yep.
To kind of piggyback off what you guys are saying, yeah, the themes of the movie are supposed to be like how this industry can be so ruthless and tear apart loving relationships between family or lovers and stuff like that. I get that. And it accomplishes it mostly.
Yeah.
I would
I
say
think-
mostly.
I think it's really actually cool how every male is portrayed as a sexist asshole. That's
Yeah.
sick.
Well, again, product of the time. That was probably, let's write these men as real life people.
Right, like almost every male character is angry and horny and forceful. For something made in this time period, it's shockingly accurate to the Broadway producers of the time period, and
Yeah.
also this time period.
Agreed.
But that's a separate issue. But like, yeah, it's just really shocking to me that like they didn't write every male character as like the best good two shoes guy who just deserves everything and gets
Except
everything.
for the bad guy who's
Yep.
cornily evil.
Yep.
Yep. He's
Exactly.
evil, but horny evil.
Horny. No, they made all these like male characters actually really low key to high key sexist on a spectrum. That's
Yeah, but
really
the
cool.
thing is, they still play Eddie as if he's the hero and justify
Yeah, he's
his
not.
actions.
They do.
Not at all.
And by the end of the film, that's where it starts to kind of fall apart for me because
We've already don't.
all
say
right,
it.
so contrasting to Wings, they were female characters with goals and wants and desires outside of being madly in love with Jack. That's awesome for most of the film.
yeah, they wanted to make music.
Right.
They wanted to be famous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they actually had like characterizations outside of just men. And I get it that on paper the story is, oh well, Hank and Eddie are together, but Eddie likes her sister Queenie, and
And her
that's like
sister likes him back for some reason.
yeah, okay. So why the fuck does Queenie love Eddie? There's
Yeah,
no
there's no-
reason in the context of the film that Queenie would fall for Eddie. None.
No,
He's
not
not
at all.
engaging or appealing. They share like 5 scenes prior to them
He's
being like,
And
engaged
"Hey,
Eddie's
Engaged
always
to
trying to
her
force
s-
herself on him.
That's another thing. Eddie absolutely is like always like up in her space, violating her personal space,
Yep.
like touching her, moving her. It's the same shit that Jock does.
yeah."
So
I was about to say.
it's hypocritical when he's like,
Yeah.
Jock's no good for you, and she's like, he treats
Jock's
me.
no good for you, he says, strong arming her.
Yeah,
yeah.
he treats me the exact same
Yeah.
way you treat me because everyone in this movie treats Queenie like an object.
Right.
Yes.
Like, look at what Jock did, and he's like, "Oh, come on, you owe me. I want to fuck you." He didn't say that, but
Paraphrasing.
paraphrasing.
In
But,
essence.
he's
Yeah.
in essence saying that, and then fucking Eddie bursts in and knocks him out with one punch, which is just
No,
hilarious.
Jock knocked out Eddie.
Oh, no, sorry, Jock knocked out Eddie with one punch.
But before that, just real quick, before that, Eddie bursts into the room and grabs Queenie by the arm and is like, "Come on!"
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
like she literally gets jerked from being like up against Jock's body to up against Eddie's body.
It's weird that Eddie would be like, "I'm the hero. I'll save you from Jock," when he's just kind of diet Jock.
He is.
He's
That's the
Diet
problem.
Jock. He's Jock. It's like Coke and Pepsi. They're the same fucking thing.
The problem is, the main problem with this film is there's not enough of a difference between Eddie and Jock
Agreed.
to understand why Eddie is the hero and Jock is the bad guy.
Yep.
But I get what you're saying. It's a good thing that all these men are portrayed as sexist assholes because it does highlight the strength of the bond between Queenie and Hank more.
Yes.
But
Yep.
it also is a double-edged sword because it makes the film fall apart
Yep.
because it unironically, unilaterally decides that Eddie is a hero.
Mhm.
He is never condemned for his actions. He ends up on top.
One of the things too is that you're talking about the bond between Hank and Queenie. I think some of it's really, really good, and some of it's really, really the same. I think it's too repetitive. It's always, I know what's good for you. No, you don't. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Over and over again.
It
I would have loved for this clash to be a little bit any different at all. But it's always, I know what's best for you. Nope, I'm going to do this. I also love your boyfriend. Like, that's the whole plot. And I think some of the scenes between them, I think when Hank is alone, she's more interesting than when she's with Queenie, the person she's supposed to be clashing with.
Yes.
Because her reflections are more interesting than the same dialogue 10 times. And it's super frustrating. Because I complained a little bit about the acting in this one because it's suspect at best.
See, I don't agree that the acting was bad in this.
I think some of it's,
I think
a
it was a
little
lot
too
of
much.
their acting.
yes, and I don't personally like that. So that's
I get
fine.
that.
Even then,
but-
I think the theater acting in Wings was even better.
Yeah.
I feel
It
like
was.
that's good.
I mean, I'm not saying it's like the best acting ever, but I don't think it was bad acting at any point.
It's
you know?
just not. I could prefer that. I can infer rather that it's not my preference, but I think some of the overacting wasn't very appealing to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big overacting theater.
I understand that.
Speaking
And-
of performances, I think a lot of them, when they sung, were occasionally off key. What'd you guys
Oh
think?
yeah, so bad.
I'm
I actually
tone
wrote down
deaf.
everything
I'm
about
not-
the songs. So the first song, the Broadway melody, which they do part 1 and part 2 of, I actually really liked that one. Eddie
really, really good, actually. I think that song in particular and that little spat performance at the beginning is really, really good. I think the second one is that's the one he sang to Queenie, his weird like simp love song. That one's kind of weird. Like it's not bad, but it's too weird. He's like, "You're mine, you belong to me, object woman," and it's like, okay, I hate this. When she's at the birthday party, Jacques sings another weird simp love song, and it's also bad because Jacques wasn't good. And then the fourth one's just not good. Like a lot of the musical, A, this is a musical with like 5 songs, and B, only like 2 of them really hit.
And none of the songs ever feel like so like in a traditional musical, or and I should say a contemporary musical, the songs move the plot forward and can be about characterization, can be an event, can be like exposition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they just kind of happen.
They just kind of happen in this film.
Yeah.
They don't serve any real.
It's more of an old school traditional playwright musical as opposed to a contemporary made for entertainment musical.
You're right.
And the musical elements don't bolster this movie.
No,
they don't drag anything along. They don't
I made
put
a
anything
note.
forward. They just exist.
I made a note that for the early on in the movie, like the first like 20 minutes, I was like, wow, the soundtrack is really kind of bumping. I'm kind of enjoying it, but it's kind of repetitive. It's the same song 3 times.
It's the same song
Yep.
3 times. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's why I was like, oh, no
it's
shit. It's
literally
repetitive.
Broadway Melody, which is the name of the song.
Yeah.
It's a good song. I'm enjoying
It's
it.
a good song, but it's interesting to me how it's classified as a musical, but like by contemporary standards, I'm like, this isn't really hitting musical aspects. Like there's no big dance numbers, there's no big climactic like cinematic movement of the camera, which makes sense. It's the 30s. This is still the era of just put the camera center shot and have everyone act.
Well,
The occasional punch in.
the thing is with Wings, there were some really interesting shots, and that's what I think made that, in my opinion, more interesting. At least the parts in Wings. I didn't even like the first half, but that's where a lot of the more interesting shots were.
Yeah, that's
So
where like the swing
that's where it
shot
keeps
was.
it at least semi-engaging.
You're right.
This movie is
They definitely,
tripod. Like
it's definitely got some tripod.
it feels very much Universal Monster playwright, click camera in place, watch board.
It also felt cheap in some parts because
Yeah.
I noticed something that didn't happen in Wings, which is there's a lot of cuts in this film are bad. There are just straight up jump cuts in between shots, which I get it. Somebody flubbed.
but
you
there's
go
a
back
lot
to-
in a row.
There are a lot in a row. There's one shot. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
10
man.
minutes in, Queenie's in a bathtub. There's 4 shots.
And they
There's 4
simultaneously
cuts
like
there are
within,
4
like 10
cuts
seconds.
in a less than 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's awful. Oh my god.
4 cuts in less than 10 seconds. It's like just redo the whole
There were
take.
some audio issues as well. There was that one scene. I don't remember exactly how long into the film it was, but the background audio was like humming, like there's background noise, and then it just stopped.
Oh yeah.
There was a couple of times where the background audio or the visuals were cutting, and it kind of jars you and takes you out of the movie a little bit, especially with a movie that's not that interesting to begin with.
Especially with a movie that has a lot of dead air. I also made a note of that.
Yes.
There are,
Oh my god, there's so many long shots of nothing where it's
People
just like
just staring.
someone's face or the card that was the happy birthday card that lingered on screen for like 20 seconds.
there was one shot in particular I remember where it cut from a performance on stage to a shot of Hank just staring just past the camera. It lingered on her for about 7 or 8 seconds. She didn't say anything. She didn't do anything. Nobody interacted with her. She didn't.
Yep.
There was no noise, and then it cut away.
Yeah.
And I did not understand why that shot was there.
A lot of this movie, the pacing of this movie is abysmal. It's very, very slow for a movie that's like an hour, 40
It
minutes.
feels longer than Wings, and it's
It does.
It's,
It does
what,
feel longer.
30,
I'm
it's a
gonna
half hour shorter.
disagree. I think the pacing is actually really nice. It's quick and it gets the points of the scenes across in the minimal amount of time that you want to get those points across. There are some sequences like you're talking about where like shots don't make sense. Like why would they have that sequence right before that sequence when that just happened anyway? Like what you
Yeah.
were talking about with that one thing you don't know why it was
That's
there.
fine.
I
With
get that.
Hank's reaction shot where she's
Yep.
just staring.
Right. Like I totally get that. But I think the pace of the movie was pretty nice, and the way that the musical in the first like third, I think it moved the story along really well. I kind of wish that the rest of the movie had that level of musical pushing the movie forward, like you guys were mentioning.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a musical. It
I
feels like a
never
movie about a musical.
Yeah, it feels like a movie about a musical production, but I never at any point felt like the music of the movie was pushing the plot along.
Never once. No, I agree.
I once went in the first like 20 minutes during the Broadway Melody sequence. that pushed it along. But then after that point, it really just doesn't.
That was a literal like stage rehearsal.
Right,
though.
but it's also like in a meta way supposed to be like the thing we're watching, where it's like, whoa, that's so cool, you know.
Mm.
And that worked for me. But that aspect worked for me, you know. It's
See,
not like
I might not have been as enthused with that stuff at the beginning because of the dialogue that Zanfield was having with Eddie and his 3 yes men. I think that Zanfield was like, they suck, because they sucked. They weren't. Queenie and Hank weren't good at singing.
they had to like beg the guy to even let them
Yes.
in.
But at the beginning, he goes, this part's too slow. Cut them out. And then the rest of it proceeds to be densely slower.
Yeah,
It
cut
was.
this like 2-minute
was, like,
sequence, and then
so-
keep this like 20-minute tap dancing scene.
Yeah,
It
and
was
that
like-
lasted too long.
And it wasn't even good tap dancing.
No,
It wasn't. There's like a close-up shot that lingers for what, 10, 15 seconds?
Yep.
And it's just her like stomping her right foot on the floor
Yep.
and then occasionally tapping her left. And it's like you're not doing like any like
It's not
intricate
intricate,
maneuver. There's no like quick cut. It wasn't like 2 feet. It was literally like I would describe it as her just stomping her right foot down as fast as she could.
Yep.
And I'm like, this isn't interesting tap dancing.
Mhm.
I like tap dancing a lot.
Yeah, it's
It's
interesting.
an art form.
Yes.
That's bad tap dancing. Just stamping your right foot on the floor over
Yeah.
and over again. It's like I can go outside and do that on the sidewalk, and I would not call that fucking tap dancing.
I just feel like a lot of the characters in this film are kind of irredeemable pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the only character that has an arc that makes them a good person at the end is Hank.
because she
Because even Queenie, what a bitch.
she sacrifices everything for her sister's happiness. And ends up taking the show
shitty
that
job
she
she
doesn't
doesn't
want to do with a partner that she doesn't really like.
Yep.
Yep. Honestly, I think you're right. Hank is the best written character in the whole movie, which is weird because she is the lead and female in 1929. You
I
figure-
believe
I
that
would
was,
say that
um,
Eddie would technically be the quote lead.
I'm
like
pretty
the
sure that
lead
was-
man.
I'm pretty sure that's who Bessie Love played. I
Yes,
really
yes.
do get why Bessie was nominated for a best actress. Like
Oh,
the scene
yeah.
after she tells Eddie off
Yeah.
and is just breaking down,
Yeah.
crying in her.
That's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah,
Yep, I came around to that scene after I realized she did actually care. And
that is the scene where the film for me. I was like, okay, there is
there's at least something.
There's something here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because I was wavering. I'm like, what is this movie really giving me right now? You know, like I wasn't like holistically like just down on it the entire
No,
time, but
not
I
at
was
all.
never like there was never a scene up until that point where I was like, okay, this is what it's all about. This is where we've been going.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
it just feels like a lot of meandering from scene to scene.
To kind of add to that a little bit, I'm going to fire in with a bit of a hot take. I think one of the reasons, like one of the main reasons that this won Best Picture of the entire year was because certain parts were in color. And that was shocking at the time. I think if you're in a theater in 1929 and you don't have a lot of like amazing film sequences of like dancing and showing and stuff like that, because there's not a whole lot of musicals prior to this point filmed in theaters
Yeah,
in
that's true.
1929.
And people loved theater.
People love theater. It's like the big thing. And you were to watch this movie and you see those Broadway melody sequences in pure color
Yeah.
where they're dancing around the stage and you're like experiencing it with the music and the sound editing and the
Oh my
all
god,
shit.
that would be beautiful.
That'd be amazing.
Ah,
I feel
too
like
bad that's lost.
yeah, too bad it fucking
See, now that's the
Ugh.
interesting part. Is now I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, what was lost? Was it just superfluous musical numbers?
because this is
Are
kinda
there
short.
missing numbers
Yeah.
from
Because
this movie?
if there's missing numbers, maybe the plot gets better.
You got a good point
Maybe.
there. We can only judge what we're given, which is what we
Yes.
have.
I mean, I don't imagine that they'd suddenly be like a contemporary musical where like
Yeah.
it's a character having a monologue song about what they want and what they desire. I doubt that would be it, but it's interesting now to think what is missing from this film because I
Yeah.
think overall this film's cohesive.
It is.
It's
Yeah,
a story.
I think it's cohesive. It's just not interesting.
It's definitely not interesting, but that's now the mystery of the unknown is like what are we missing from this that would put it over the top for us? I mean, granted, we didn't watch Alibi or on Arizona or the other films that came out for Best Picture. We only watched the winners, not the
Yep.
nominees.
Yep.
'Cause
If you're not first, you're last.
that would take way too much fucking time to watch every single
Oh my
nominee.
god! Like nowadays, when it's like 10 films.
Oh my
Ugh.
god.
Although we'd have the benefit of we've already seen like all
Half
of
of
them
them,
for like
yeah.
the year Parasite one and stuff.
Fair enough.
But my point is, like, it's an interesting thing to think about. It's like, where would these missing scenes be? What would they be? What did
I don't
we
know if
miss?
they were missing scenes or if they were just scenes that were filmed in color that we just got in black and white because the color versions are lost.
No, I think it said there were some missing scenes.
There's
some
some missing
separate
scenes, yeah, I
scenes.
think so.
Okay, I see that because back then movies were pretty long and this is like an hour 40.
True.
Yeah,
So it totally makes if there's like a 10-minute sequence in there.
Imagine the pacing if the songs weren't good and there was 20 more minutes of them in the movie.
Yeah, I complimented the pacing.
It's actually what we're missing is 20 minutes of in color that girl just stamping her foot on the floor.
0.
more shots of just that.
Good Lord.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. The thing is too that I'm not a big musical guy. I think I've mentioned that on the show before.
You have.
And this isn't a musical for one. I feel like this isn't a musical. Categorizing this as a musical is. It's not. It's a movie about a musical.
Yeah.
It's a movie about a
But-
musical.
Culturally, I do want to point out that musicals, while they're not as big as they are, right now it's booming. So I feel like we're not missing any cultural things here with the musical aspect. Like it's not like it's a movie about old time radio and how radio's dead now, basically.
Did you notice that every guy in this movie had the old time radio's voice?
Yes, or a terrible New York accent voice.
Dude, that scene the scene at the end, sorry, I just really got a quick
You're
tangent.
good, you're good.
When Eddie and Jock confront each other, I swear to God, they're both talking the same way, which is this, like, in the Dateline in the 1930s, Black Dahlia was found on the side of the road murdered by Boris Karloff. Like,
They fucking
I swear to God, they were talking in the same pitch.
No, you're right.
they had
you're
the
right.
same voice, the same pitch, the same action
Cadence.
towards fucking Queenie.
They had the same cadence. Like, I'm
Yeah,
like,
they're the
these
same
are the
guy.
same people.
Yeah.
And
It blew my fucking mind.
But to go with the point, like for Wings, we didn't have a lot of the same like. I don't know about you, but I've never been alive during World War fucking One or anything like that.
Not
so we
to
were
my knowledge.
we were missing things like that. For this, like Hamilton's fucking huge right now.
In the
Like,
Heights. is
still
gonna be
Hamilton's
big.
fucking huge. In the Heights is gonna be slapping. It's gonna be huge. La La Land, shit like that.
Oh, I love
where
La La Land.
everything musical right now is still getting critical acclaim, Academy Awards, shit like that. So we're still in a moment like that where we understand musical theater. We understand the background of terrible producers in musical theater. Like the sexism in musical theater is still fucking
Sexism
rampant.
in Hollywood.
Yep.
But musical theater especially, it's like, all right, sleep with me and you won't get the part. All right, you don't get the part. Fuck off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like things like that happen. So we have that culture knowledge as compared to some of the stuff in Wings where we didn't have the same kind of vibe, even though it's made in the same time period. The subject matter we still understand.
I think that's because the themes of Broadway Melody are more timeless, where it's about the idea of sacrificing your morals for what you want. Because they hit it nail on the head when Hank's like, "Yeah, we've never had to flaunt our skin to get a good part. We've over exactly." So I see what you mean. Although I will say most of the musicals nowadays, like Hamilton, In the Heights, La La Land, they're not about musical production. That's the difference here. Because we've said those are musicals. This is a film about a musical theater
Yeah.
number.
I
So-
think when we get to the 1936 one, I think that's actually just a musical.
what
so-
the Broadway Melody 1930s.
Great
No,
Ziegfeld?
great. Yeah, that one.
That one.
The one
I
we have
kept-
the one we have to watch for Best Picture.
Mhm.
I think that I'm pretty sure that one's more musical, and if not, then I know at least like 2 or 3 of them are.
I kept thinking of that one because the guy's name is Zangfield.
Ziegfeld?
No. The guy in
Oh,
this
this
film
one is Zangfield. Yep.
I'm like, are these guys related or something? Like, Best Picture Cinematic Universe.
Exactly.
Oh no.
That'd be beautiful.
That'd be funny as shit because one of the fucking winners is Lord of the Rings 3.
Yep.
Which means specifically just that one
Yep.
takes place.
It's
in
a sequel to Godfather 1 and 2.
yeah.
I think that when we get to that one, we'll have more of the musical then versus musical now aspect because this is just a movie. This reminds me a lot of like a music biopic almost.
This movie was surprisingly funny. There were some good lines in here.
Yes, absolutely. I love the writing of a lot of the characters and what they said to each other.
I think the lines are very funny, but there's also some things that didn't age quite well. The guy with the stutter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Disabilities aren't funny.
However, I will say I laughed at several of the jokes at his expense because
I
I'm
like
a terrible
how when he
because I'm a
couldn't say-
terrible person.
I like how when he couldn't say something, he swapped because that does really happen.
Yeah, I know
Sometimes
people.
when people have stutters, they go, "All right, I'll do a fucking different word. It's fine." 'Cause
Yeah.
they get frustrated, and I completely know and understand that.
Yeah.
But some of it, like the yes men, like I am prepared, or oh my god, the portrayal of this is the second movie in a row where they don't know how drunk people are.
Yeah.
Queenie was like,
I will say that
glugging
their
around.
portrayal is at the very least a little accurate as opposed to
it's more accurate.
It's Tom and Jerry drunk.
Yeah,
it's a lot better
yeah.
than fucking cartoon bubbles on someone's dress or whatever the fuck was happening. in
Yeah, that
Wings.
was a stylized thing. I didn't like that very much, but at least it wasn't. It was played more for comedy than this drunk where the dude was just drunk or Queenie just drunk. There was a lot of that I just don't like. Being drunk is a thing.
It's a
It's
thing.
not.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean.
In like the 30s, that's what they did. Is they played it up for laughs. Comedy, ha.
yeah.
I-
But it's the second film in a row where I think the portrayal of drinking and having alcohol in your system is just bad.
I mean, I don't know. I'm genuinely surprised that this movie wasn't based on a prior musical because everything
or
feels
like,
like
a
it was
play.
yeah, it feels
Yeah,
like it
me
was like a
too.
play brought to life or a script from like a play that was a long time ago brought to life. This
Yeah, I
one is
agree.
just an original idea that was made into a movie, and that's actually pretty cool to me. And it spawned this massive quote
Cinematic
massive
universe.
franchise. I was about to say,
Sequels.
3
of, like-
sequels and a reboot.
and the reboot was the same year as one of the sequels. Which
That's
is,
really
Really dumb.
that's
You know,
hilarious.
they say nowadays everyone's like, oh, Hollywood ran out of ideas. Everything's sequels
Dude,
and
Hollywood
reboots.
back in the day
Yeah.
was making like 14 films of the same shit every
you
other
want to know
year.
why? It's faster and easier to make them back then.
Yeah, because you could just
Yeah.
reuse the props and stuff.
Yep. There's
Um,
no CGI.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
takes time.
So I want to ask you guys a question. I understand that in the last movie, because it was a silent movie, the title cards and like descriptor tags of what was happening were necessary because we didn't have any text or any speech rather. The title cards and scene passers in this movie don't work because it's not a silent film for me.
Also, it's interesting because it's just kind of there, and it
It's
feels like
superfluous information.
it feels like it's written in the script.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's like interior.
Yeah, Queenie
day.
and Bed Gang go to the party, and then it's them at the party. And it's like,
Yeah.
it feels very superfluous.
You know what it is? It's stage directions.
Oh my God, you're right. It's just stage direction.
Yep.
It's 100% stage
Yeah.
direction. It's
Yeah.
setting the scene.
Yep.
It's like, or do you guys? I'm gonna do a deep pull, and I'm gonna ask you not to laugh. Do you remember Romeo plus Juliet? The
Yep.
party begins in Fair Verona, and that pops up on screen, and it like flashes at you.
No,
That's
because
literally the
it's
stage directions
yeah.
from the play Romeo and Juliet. I think Jake. I know you said this isn't based on a play, but like if this was a play,
Yeah.
that's what the stage directions
Yep.
would
Right.
be, you know.
You have a good
And
point
I
there.
don't know if the fact that it's quote, quote, a play or a musical enhances that or makes it worse. Because I feel like it's in the context of cinema, that stuff's superfluous because it's what we're seeing and we hear it too at
Mhm.
this point. I understand having those in a silent movie because we don't have any other information via audio.
Yeah.
But at this point, this is a talkie. I feel like that does not work.
It's a pre-code talkie too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hays Code isn't.
I will
enacted
say
until
though that the
next
title
film.
cards were very sparingly used.
Very
There's
sparingly
like 3, but they're thick.
yeah, I just wanted to
dense.
ask you guys about it because I feel like
I didn't
I
mind them
feel
so
like
much because
that-
like they were usually like one sentence.
yeah, they were one or two, some of them, I think one of them was like 3 sentences and it was a chunker.
There was a
But-
3-line one. I think it was
yeah.
all one sentence though.
Yeah.
I noted, but just to start, I noted that I was like, this kind of reads like
Yeah.
stage directions.
It didn't feel this doesn't feel like a movie. I'm really okay. I wrote this down in my notes. I'm glad movies aren't this anymore. I really am because this isn't what I want to watch.
What do you mean by this? Like, I want you to
so-
articulate.
Okay, when I think of a film like a good movie, the scenes are gripping.
Mhm.
The dialogue is entertaining. It's making me want to watch more.
Mhm.
I want more of what's going on. I want more of the artistic direction. I want more of interesting shots. I want more of everything. So, in this movie in particular, the only thing I wanted more of was time so it could be done. I wanted the characters to be less shitty to each other. I wanted less of the same dialogue between Queenie and Hank because I felt like that could have been the best part of the movie. I
wanna
wanted
talk about
more
that in a minute.
diversity and variety. It's all me wanting more of things the film wasn't doing as
Mhm.
opposed to what it is doing. And I feel like that's a knock on the script, but back in the day, movies felt more like screenplays, stage plays, not screenplays. Movies are screenplays. I felt like this should have been a play and not a film. It has the stage directions. It has the overacting. It has definite act 1, act 2, act 3 segments, but not in a movie way. Because the Dark Knight of the Soul in this movie doesn't really exist, but
Well,
it does.
I think that is a product of the fact that we are still in movies' infancy. And even
Mhm.
though this is an original film and it wasn't a play first, I'm sure that most of these writers are still used to writing stage plays.
Most
Yeah.
of the actors are probably
Used
acting
to
on
acting
theater.
like what's his name? Charles King. the lead, Eddie, he's not a film actor.
Mhm.
He is a vaudevillian actor. He
Yep.
is a theater actor.
Yes, he is.
He's
So.
like I couldn't find other films he was in. I think he had 4 on his Wikipedia page, and he didn't even have like a filmography list.
Yeah.
It was just he was in this
He was
stuff.
in these 4 things.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like that makes sense.
It does.
I think obviously I mean I'm not trying to hand wave the problems with this film because there are problems with it.
I completely understand that it's a product of the time because cinema isn't at that stage yet. I would say that we won't get there until, as much as I dislike Citizen Kane, because that film cinematically
It's
is
beautiful.
a beautiful film. I just think it's kind of boring.
You know what's funny? That didn't win Best Picture, so we're not going to watch it.
Yeah.
No, we're not watching it. You're right. It
Yeah.
lost to a better film.
Yeah.
Even though Citizen Kane, best film of all time, but it lost to this film. Though.
I think that's an immediate disqualifier.
Yeah,
for the
you
title
can't
of
be the best
greatest
film of all time if you didn't even win that year.
Yeah.
You have an excellent point.
So John, do you think Ringo's the best drummer in the world?
He's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
Yeah.
For cinematography specifically, I think Citizen Kane is where we're gonna get more of, oh, this doesn't feel. We're gonna get less of, oh, this doesn't feel like a movie.
Yeah.
And granted, there are parts of Wings that feel like a movie, so maybe it'll just be more consistently feeling like modern day cinematography.
I think what we're seeing right now is cinema trying to find its legs.
yeah.
Well,
you know.
you think back to Wings, like that was a technical achievement.
There's
there's a lot of really good shots.
There are impressive shots. in
This
that film.
movie, the opening of this movie is great.
Oh, it's an aerial.
Yeah,
it's
the
it's
aerial
a straight
shot.
up flyby shot of New York City.
Yeah, it's
There's
awesome.
a top-down view. It's amazing. I made a note of it.
I
was
did
like,
too.
okay.
That was the first thing I wrote
I
down.
was like, grip me, bring me right in, because I'm not expecting this in a movie
Yep.
from 1929. It's just this shot straight out of like a helicopter or something, just looking right down on the grid that is New York City. I'm like, that is impressive.
Yeah, like
That is beautiful.
what Wings did to like portray those sequences with the planes was like astounding. Like
Yeah, it's
not even for the time, but
phenomenal.
for
Oh
like
my
any
God.
time.
Not even just the
Yeah, that would be
planes.
good now.
Like think about how cool that shot is of the characters in Wings on the swing.
Yeah.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
alone.
Well, things get used like that now all the time.
Yeah, but my point
Yeah.
is like that alone in 1927 would have blown my fucking mind. Oh my god, you said something that triggered like memories of my. Oh, talking about Queenie and Hank's dynamic. I think one of the problems with it, I think the reason it really, really doesn't work for me, there's a time skip in this film, and it's like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And the problem is that's like right after Queenie does her big solo debut where she does nothing but stand there,
Dude,
which
I was so mad.
she literally just stands on a bow of a ship with her hand raised in a background spot,
Yup.
and everyone's just like, "Oh my god, who is this broad?"
Audrey Hepburn good. Fuck you. She stood there.
I mean, I get it. That kind of reinforces the point of everyone's in love with her strictly for her body because
Yes,
she's
yes.
literally not performing.
Yep.
But my biggest problem with that is they then cut to 2 weeks later, and Hank and Queenie are having problems, but we don't see
Yeah.
how they got there. I think what would have been good, what really would have bridged the gap, is there should have been a moment where Queenie is like, "I'm gonna do X," and Hank was like, "Oh, don't do X. That's a bad idea. Do Y instead."
I feel
And
like
then Queenie does Y, and it ends up bad for her, and she sees that X would have been good, and that would be that's the seed of doubt in Queenie's mind of maybe Hank doesn't always know what's best for him, because that is how Queenie's character is set up.
I think what would have been good is if Queenie said, "I want to do this thing," and Hank wasn't invited, and she's like, "Well, I'm not going to be doing that with you." And Queenie goes, "Oh, you just want this for you too," instead of her looking out for both of them. Because a lot of the stuff was Queenie not wanting Hank not to be there, but then she gets more successful, gets to just start doing more stuff. And I would have thought it would have been interesting if she thought that Hank was more jealous.
Yeah. There's never really that moment with Queenie, because
Yeah.
she's just kind of
There.
for people to assault.
Yeah. She doesn't have that.
Hank has all the
super interesting-
agency in this film.
Which is kind of, I don't want to say unfortunate, but it doesn't do anything to help Queenie's character.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate.
It's
I
weird
would
because
say.
a lot
Because
of
Queenie interacts with both mains.
Right.
And she's not interesting, but one of the mains is.
And also, you
I
were
punch
talking
my
about Queenie being used just for her beauty in this movie. It's weird considering that both her and Hank are it's subjective, but they're both, I'd say, just as pretty as each other.
Yeah.
If you,
I
in
agree.
terms of the movie and what they're trying to be portrayed as, they're trying to portray Hank as like the more serious kind of business-esque one who's just trying to be like,
Well,
this and that.
I think the point of the movie, to bring on your points about like every guy being sexist, I think Hank's charming personality is what turns them off, because Queenie's such a bimbo.
I wouldn't say she's more clueless.
Well,
She's
it's
a
not so
ditz.
much about
Yes.
like the person. It's more like every producer, every like old white man in this movie who is portrayed as a sexist, which is great, looks at Queenie and is like struck, like, oh my goodness, she's so pretty.
Dun, dun,
And they
bazooka.
overlook Hank.
She's like a siren.
Right,
Yeah.
and like Hank is right next to her in the same
They
outfit.
look the fucking same.
They look identical. and
very
it's like,
similar,
wow,
yes.
okay, really, she's gonna stand out from like the 20 other Broadway
she's
girls.
slightly taller.
She's slightly taller, therefore she's a perfect female.
Ah, yes.
I don't know.
Women over 5, 6.5.
Yeah, so
That's what really does it for me.
so no, I will say I love the scene. We already talked about it, but the scene where Hank loses her mind when
At
she
the very end.
when
yeah.
she realizes that Eddie loves Queenie instead of her. Which, yeah, you can criticize Eddie's character all day long, and I will.
I will.
But that scene brought on by that behavior, the hysterical breakdown of that character is something that, like, if the movie didn't have that, the whole structure of the movie would just not be as strong as it is. Like, you need
Honestly,
that to anchor the movie in.
If there's no that moment and her and Eddie just fall in love and him and Hank just like kind of break up, it's a 0. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah, it doesn't hold like
Because
that
even
sequence-
if there's stuff that I like, the plot is so fucking uninteresting and bad and has nothing redeemable.
I think, and I mean, I think I can say this as a compliment. I don't know if you guys will agree, but I wouldn't hate to see a remake of this film with more modern writing and acting and cinematography.
well, good news.
There is a remake. It's in 1940.
Shut the fuck up. I mean, like a
Yeah.
genuine like remake nowadays, because I think this movie does have a lot to say about the treatment of women in the entertainment industry.
It happens with homosexual men as well.
and
Very
yeah,
much so. I think you could touch on a lot of that stuff. The sexual harassment is rampant in
like
theater.
this is like, especially nowadays when a lot of producers are getting called out for their shitty behavior.
sir.
Yeah.
I think this is a film that could really,
Ooh,
really
imagine
touch-
Broadway Melody post Me Too movement.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
I do want to bring up another black and white movie that's actually a silent movie that I think does some really cool cinematographic.
Cinematographic?
Cinematographic?
Cinematography?
Cinematic.
Cinematic. There you go.
Cinematic things, but it doesn't do them with the camera, it does it with the sets. Dr. Caligari.
Oh,
That movie has so much modern cinema in it, but it's the sets.
that film's like the grandfather of every Tim Burton horror.
Yeah. It's the perspective that you get from the paintings in the background.
Also,
that
the
make it
style
so
of the
interesting.
paintings, they have such
Yes.
deep shadows
Yes.
to them that
It
make everything feel stretched.
It feels like camera tricks, but it's painting tricks. And that's why I'm always nervous to talk about, oh, this movie doesn't have the good cinematic stuff. Because, like, Dr. Caligari has such fucking banging everything.
You're right, but I'm gonna challenge you.
But it's not Hollywood, too.
It's not Hollywood. First off, it's a German expressionist film.
Yes.
Second off, I don't think that a super stylized film necessarily makes it more interesting, and I don't think that a stylized cinematic style in Broadway Melody would have made it better. I think it would have
I'm not
made
saying
it
that. I'm not saying
stranger.
that by any stretch. I'm not saying they should have done weird stretch outline. I'm
not just saying that. I'm just
I'm-
saying any sort of flavor to make it more exaggerated, I think misses the point.
Oh, yeah,
because
no,
this is
absolutely.
supposed to be a relatable, real film.
Yes. But I'm just personally, from my perspective, from all of the foreign films I've watched from the 20s to 50s, I feel like Hollywood was behind on cinematography.
Well, I think the reason for that is because everyone in Hollywood was trying to make it big, and the best way to do that was to make the most inoffensive, samey, bland, simple thing that the producers would just sign off on without giving it a second glance.
Very fair.
Over in Germany, over in the Eastern European
Russia-
countries, in
Russia
Italy,
especially,
in
yeah.
Russia, they
Czech.
didn't have
Yeah.
Hollywood, so they were going out with their cameras and they
Mhm.
were just making shit. You know, Man with a Movie Camera, that is 2 hours of
Of B-roll.
B-roll.
I didn't love that, but there are some really cool shots in that.
There's some amazing shots. Yeah, no, Man with a Movie Camera is it's a movie that you can't judge because there's nothing fucking happening.
Yeah.
Like I know people who are like, oh, it's one of my favorites. I'm like, fucking
Why? Yeah. Like there's some interesting shots, but it's
not
kind of boring.
it's
Yeah.
not a regular movie. It's just B-roll.
It is
But
categorized as a silent documentary. On what, Earth?
Yes, it's
no,
just
I
stuff.
actually, yeah, no, I wrote a not a paper, but I wrote a little thing for one of our professor Bjorn's classes
Love
on Man with a Movie Camera, and I said it's a documentary. He asked, "What is it a documentary about?" And I said it's a documentary about everyday
Life.
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a day in the life. That's how I categorized it. I was like, it's
I
just
agree.
somebody's life.
Yep.
It's a town's life.
So-
but the point is,
Yeah.
I see what you mean though.
Yeah.
And-
Have you seen Daisies?
No, I've never
It's a
seen
Czech
Daisies.
film. I didn't super love it.
I've heard it's trippy.
Oh yeah, it's fucking trippy. There's some really weird shit in that movie. I think it came out more towards the 40s actually.
Yeah.
But that's only like 10 years from this. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
But like, I know what you mean. Like, there's nothing to this film to make it really stand out.
Yeah.
And but I think if it did have that, to circle way back around, I think if it did have something like that, it would make it worse because it would be missing the point of this is a real film and these themes are relatable and understandable and timeless. And if it has like a really wild, wacky, avant-garde just style to it, I think that makes it less relatable because it pulls it away from reality.
I can see
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is one of my favorite films
I
ever.
agree. It's I think it's my favorite silent film of all time.
It is absolutely my favorite
Yeah.
silent film. It's one of my favorite films ever, period, full stop.
Yeah.
And part of that is because of the extra crazy style.
Yeah. And you don't even like Tim Burton style.
I
Actually.
hate Tim
You
Burton.
hate that.
I don't like almost any of his films. I think Batman 1989 is fine.
I love both of his Batman movies.
I haven't seen Batman Returns.
Ah, it slaps.
I think that Batman 1989 is not really about Batman.
That's kind of what makes it great, though.
Michael
I like both the Burton Batman
point
movies.
is, Michael Keaton's a milquetoast Batman, but that's not the point. But that's what makes Caligari work. Like, if you took Caligari and did it in Broadway musical style,
It'd be terrible.
it would be boring as shit. It would be terrible, and it would not engage you. But films need to have a style both
Yeah.
to make them distinct, but also fit their tone. Caligari's style
Is that
fits
style.
its tone because it's this creepy German Gothic.
Yeah.
Broadway Melody is supposed to be a modern comedy drama.
But you know what I will say about this movie is that it still doesn't really have a style, and that's what makes it so bland and forgettable.
All right, so I haven't spoken in a while, but just to kind of add to
Shut the
this,
fuck up.
just to kind of add to this conversation, there's nothing here I would call groundbreaking or revolutionary or even for the time advancing what cinema can be.
Yeah.
And that
No.
kind of matters to me because if a movie is going to win Best Picture of the entire year and it does not advance cinema in some aspect or some effect, then you're telling me that every film that year did not do anything for cinema.
I think it's either got to be technically impressive.
Or story-wise, mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
Mhm.
to jump to the near future, Parasite. I don't think there's a lot of shots in that film that really advanced film
I
the
would
way.
say that film did something for movies.
I would say that
But it
film
did something
did
for fucking
something for
movies.
the American audience's appreciation of Korean film.
Yeah, you can absolutely say that.
I'd say that film did a lot for the
Mhm.
American audience's appreciation of Korean film, and
Mhm.
I'd say it did a lot for the discussion on class.
Yes. That and honestly, I feel like foreign film should be more appreciated, and it's just kind of not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you look at Broadway Melody and like it feels so
Simple.
unremarkable.
It
if I could
feels
use
like
that
a
word.
movie we would watch probably some point later in the year because it's Oscar bait, probably around October or November, and go, this wasn't really worth it.
Oh my god, Phantom Thread.
Yeah.
Ugh.
One of those. It's gonna be
Yeah,
another one
There's
of those.
nothing impressive about that movie.
Like,
man.
this feels like the kind of movie we would watch and we'd review and say it's fine, and then we'd go see Little Women and we'd be like, wow, a way better film.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you guys think this is the first Oscar bait film and that's why it won? Because it
No,
pushed
because-
cinema.
Because even then, Oscars weren't a big thing after year one.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's
You're
not
right.
like it really
I mean,
mattered.
the original ceremony was 15 minutes.
Exactly. So like it's not like these movies like trying to be anything. But like I
That's
think
true.
a lot like I was saying earlier, I think a lot of the reason it won was the fact that it had this amazing quote color sequence because we don't know if it's
I
amazing.
could
or not.
agree. Yeah.
But like I think that was for the time probably astounding to actually be in that theater watching that scene.
Oh, you know what? We're watching it from our perspective of it not having a Technicolor. Technicolor was a big fucking advancement in film.
Huge advancement.
You're
in film.
right. So
Yep.
that might have been it.
That might have been it.
What put it over
We
the top.
missed the one part that made this an Oscar movie.
Yeah, so that's why I think
Maybe
that.
that's why it's got such shitty reviews nowadays.
That's why I think that. I feel like a lot of the reason that this is such like an amazing accomplishment in 1929 is the fact that it was in color for a
God,
part.
We'll never know.
We'll
Yeah.
never know.
No, we
That
will.
sucks. So based on what
Unless
we
they
do know,
find it.
based on what we do know, out of 10, what are we thinking?
Already?
Already,
I do
mean,
just want to
I'm
say
done.
I do just want to say one more thing.
Sure.
There is the version of this film in color, like all of it in color. That they got, I think it got recolored at some point, but it's
did.
all in color, and it'd be like watching Seventh Seal in color. Not all of it was meant to be in color,
Just certain sequences.
just certain sequences. Therefore, I don't think all of it would have been
Good.
impacted better with color.
God, Seventh Seal was worse in color.
I've seen the original film of Seventh Seal and it in color. It is so much worse in color. It's so funny. The death scene, which is so good.
That is the only scene I've seen of the movie in color. It's so fucking
It's way worse.
bad.
It's way worse.
It's so terrible. Like the
Yeah.
the ambiance of playing chess with death on a beach is so done perfectly, and then you see it in color, and you're like, "Why is this man wearing a robe?"
It's red
let me,
too.
Let me fire in directly. No known color prints of the sequence survive, only black and white.
Okay.
So nothing.
Nothing.
Does not exist as of our time period. So
As of the recording of this in early 2021, does not exist.
Yep.
That's a shame.
So I think this is way shorter than our Wings review.
Yeah.
No, this was about an hour, wasn't it?
give or take. Yeah.
50 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the movie. You know.
Yeah, not every. I think we're good with probably around an hour.
Yeah.
Especially,
As long as you shoot for
especially
an
with a
hour.
movie with such little substance.
Yeah.
Yeah, there isn't a lot to this film.
So
No.
out of 10,
And a lot of those there is just
what are you
repetitive.
guys thinking?
God.
I'm gonna be honest. I did not have fun watching this one. I didn't like the beginning of the last one, but it really, really picked up. It was interesting. Ended up with a positive score. I was hoping that the latter half of this movie would have that moment where all the character interactions started being better and the songs would start being there and everything would be good. And it got worse
It
for
did.
the most part, except the one good scene. I'm gonna give this like a generous 3.
I was also thinking a generous 3. I can't give it like a 2 or a 1 because a lot of what this movie does is not remarkable. But there are some bits, like where the Hank freakout scene after she breaks up with Eddie, like where the musical sequences were spectacular, like where a various other single-digit number of amazing events that are not enough to add up to an amazing score. I'm gonna give it a 3 generously, and hopefully the next best pictures after this one, even the ones that are musicals, somehow exceed this.
I am going
Somehow.
to agree and give this film a 3 out of 10. There's not a lot here that's good, but it's not a unilaterally bad film.
I agree.
It's passable.
Even some of like the bad movies I've seen have really good redeemable things.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie does have those really good redeemable
There's
things.
at least something that the film builds to
Yeah.
that pays it off.
It's a cohesive story.
It's a
Some of the acting's decent. I don't like all of it, but I think like some of the scenes.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's the one good song at the beginning.
There is.
I can't give it a lower score than that. I just can't.
Yeah.
I feel like there is some good, but it's outweighed by boring,
So,
bland nothing.
as of episode 2, Broadway Melody, worst Best Picture winner.
Yeah. We're looking at the best and worst. Best, wings, worst, Broadway
It'll be
Melody.
fun. We should definitely keep a ranking for this show specifically. Feel free to cut this
Absolutely.
part. We should absolutely keep ranks because it'll be interesting to compare.
Mhm.
Because this is saying best and worst, so we are ranking them. But
Yep.
right now, we all have the same ranking of Wings, Broadway Melody. So yeah, 3 out of 10. This is easily the worst Best Picture winner so far.
of the 2,
Yep.
Of
which isn't
the
saying
2.
that much about it.
No,
you know?
it's not. I'm interested at how much variety we have in our score so far. Like this is by our show standards, 3 is not a positive score.
No, not at all.
By any show, it's negative of the scale of
3 out
average.
of 10 is 30%. That's not passing in any country.
I know. I'm saying it's interesting. I guess Best Pictures are still fallible, is what I mean.
Well, it's voted on by a panel of people. 90 years ago by a panel of people as the best film that came out this year. And now it has a 30% and 20%.
So, Jake, what's up next?
I'll tell you. You see, the third Best Picture winner ever is our next show, and I am really excited for it. It's All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh,
I have heard nothing but
I
spectacular
love
things.
All Quiet on the Western Front. I've never seen it, but I've read the book.
You have?
Yeah.
That's a good take, actually. You can add to that.
Yes, I will preface that with I haven't read it since high school, so I don't think I'm gonna remember everything. But oh my god, I loved that book in high school.
We finna do this shit like this. It's like
I wish when I walked I had that same effect on the weather.
We got a punch dude and a kick dude.
Yep.
Hell yeah, the two things you need.
Where's headbutt guy? Uh-oh, those are guns.
Yep.
Oh, don't worry. Woo, another one. Oh, it's staff guy.
Yep.
Fuck yeah! Everyone has a thing. I like that.
Yeah. Dude, every single martial artist in this movie has a thing.
This whole movie is just the Smith fight in Reloaded.
You're right.
This whole fucking movie.
When does he spin around like a helicopter?
He's doing it right now.
Lying ass niggas in your punk ass